England went to Hampden last night and won easily, 3-1. There's so many backstories to it. Gareth Southgate, not for the first time, coming to the defence of Harry Maguire. Maguire scores an own goal last night, but that's by the by. Post-match, Southgate says, I've never known a player to be treated the way he is, not from the Scottish fans, but by our own commentators, pundits, whatever it is. So Maguire, the topic of conversation this morning, is it irresponsible for a manager to keep putting him in the firing line? Basically, we're putting it out there. Is Southgate right to defend him in the way he's defending them? And is he right in laying part of the blame at commentators, pundits, whoever they are? Roy Keane's coming in for it this morning, Simon. Roy has laid into Harry Maguire on occasion, presumably on Sky. And Simon, you're taking a bit of the flack as well. Paul and Pockington, wherever that is. Simon Jordan would throw a grenade and then blame it for exploding. Absolutely no sense of responsibility for his actions.
You sure that's not Michelle?
No, I wouldn't.
Is that fair?
No. I would throw a grenade, I just wouldn't pull the pin out. Then it wouldn't be my responsibility, would it?
I mean, has he got a point? Because you did, albeit back in March.
Are we moved into the territory where you're not allowed to have an observation on a player? Is that what we're saying? Are we moving into the territory where if you think a player is a mediocre player and you can point to the reasons why?
I think he's talking about delivery of observation.
Oh, so
choice of words, etc.
Well,
you can be a tad cynical and a bit nasty at times.
I'm not cynical or nasty. I'm just direct and plain speaking.
That's fair
and hold people to account and try and stack up an argument and stand it up and put some validity by my own thinking. And if people don't like it, we'll get over it. The point is that I don't think I've said anything particularly unfair about Harry Maguire.
Well, if mediocre's the worst word you used,
yeah,
then...
I mean, people will say, "Oh, he turns like an ocean liner." It's able to conceptualise in someone's mind that he's slow. I think he is.
In March, Harry Maguire, a mediocre centre-half who's been picked by a man who knows all about being a mediocre centre-half.
Yeah, I agree.
Never mind.
I think that's very, very insightful.
Yeah,
well,
he
was at Palace.
For this one.
Yeah.
That was back in March.
Yeah.
What is he this morning?
Who?
Harry Maguire, stop buying yourself time.
No,
you do that. Look at me.
Exactly
what is he this morning? The same.
Yeah, he's a mediocre centre-half. He's not an £80 million footballer. He was elevated to I feel sorry for some of these players sometimes because they get elevated to positions that they're not at and then they get judged by those set of standards. Like at one time, Marcus Rashford's a really, really good player. But he's a world-class player. He's a good player. And all of a sudden we get judged by these standards and then everybody goes after them. I feel sorry for them sometimes.
Yeah, but that's
very rarely
that's
do I feel
because
sorry.
club owners pay 80 million for Harry Maguire.
I think Maguire set his stall out and his level towards the end at Leicester in his first year or so, 18 months, whatever it was at United, where he was still playing well, and for England playing well. He set himself a bar, and he's fallen below it. I wouldn't call him mediocre. I still think he's a really good centre-half, but he's fallen below the level he set himself, so he's looking at times a little bit devoid of confidence and a little bit cumbersome
when you look at, say, Maguire compared to Ferdinand, or Maguire compared to Jaap Stam, or Maguire compared to Vidic, not in the same zip code, right? So that, to me, those are good players. Those are good central defenders, right?
Well, you're talking about some of the best we've ever seen.
Fine, but that's what Man United should have as their captain and as their centre half, and that's what England should have in the centre of their defence.
Yeah,
and that's why I make that argument.
But also, like managers and coaches sometimes you look and with hindsight, some of them could have made better decisions. I mean, I said on air a year ago, keeping him when Ten Hag come in, he knew what he did and didn't fancy, and he left him as captain. Left him up there on, to be shot out. Really, take the pressure off him a little bit if you're not going to play him.
Well, Steve's a Manchester United fan. Let's put that right to him. Listen, Steve, you lot started this, didn't you?
No, not at all. Maguire has been always a mediocre player, right? He's not performed for many times, and it's disrespectful to all the other players that Gareth Southgate dropped. He dropped many players who are not in form, right? And then he said, we've got to stand by Maguire. Maguire couldn't keep a clean sheet if he gave him one, right? We were winning 2-0 last year against Sevilla at Old Trafford. He bottled it as soon as Martinez went off. He's let England down, right? All the time, England goals are let in by Maguire. Nobody else. Against Italy, Maguire, right? Against Ukraine, Maguire. Maguire is the problem. And Maguire will only improve when he builds his confidence back. And if you keep putting him in, he keeps thinking he's great. He's not great, and most players get dropped and rebuild themselves.
Steve, you go to United games, mate?
I think you like. I went to England. I saw Maguire.
Have you booed him? Have you given him stick?
No, I don't boo him because I just think he's rubbish. Right? He's rubbish. He's not. Steve Bruce.
Steve, rubbish is not on. That's not
No,
fair, is it?
He's not rubbish.
That's not on.
No, he's not rubbish.
Okay, he's mediocre. He's mediocre. Steve Bruce never won an England cap, and he's a 10 times better player and captain Maguire. Never won an England cap, Steve Bruce. Come on.
I think the
Okay,
point
listen,
is we
thanks,
can
Steve.
hypothesise about which players should have done this and who's better and all those things. The fact is, I think there's a responsibility personally for the supporters of your own club to back your players.
But it
Now,
does irritate. It irritates people. It doesn't irritate me that Southgate picks him because he's not playing for Man United, but it does irritate a section of the audience. There's this constant
well,
reference.
it creates debate.
It creates debate, and I think it's as much about Southgate in this conversation as it is about Maguire, because people are looking at it going, there should be something about playing for England that illustrates that you're at the top of your game.
Yeah, playing well.
And there's something about
The
Southgate.
Phillips
picking
and
him.
Maguire debate is a problem for Southgate.
It is.
You made a great point, though, Danny. If he'd gone to West Ham, he'd have to do what he's good at. Defend for your life. Alex, you're a West Ham fan. You sorry that he didn't end up with you? Alex, good morning.
Go on.
Maybe he decided not to answer that question. But Danny, tell me what you told me in the break about had he moved.
Well,
we might have seen the best of him.
I think defensive players, destructive players, if you like, defensive-minded players are better at times when they're just having to do what they know their strengths are. And sometimes when you've lost a bit of confidence and you're on the ball at a Man United England, you're dominating. You're on the ball a lot and dominating possession. You're low on confidence. You do look nervy and edgy, and every mistake is escalated because you're playing for Man United in a system where you're supposed to be a really good footballer and aesthetically pleasing and have all the attributes you need to be one of the best centre halves in Europe.
Yeah.
If he was playing next to Zuma now, or he was playing next to Tarkowski at Everton, where they're defending a lot of crosses and blocks and shots, and he's not having to play out from the back and look all.
A different narrative would start to advance.
All of a sudden, it'd be, Maguire's got his head back on. Look at that
sure.
block. Look at that tackle. Look at the partnership he's got with Zuma, Tarkowski, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
Again, I think you'd start seeing a different narrative. Yeah, absolutely. And also, just quickly on it, the difference in your well-being when you're playing every week and feeling a bit valued. I know that sounds a bit like
It's right.
a child.
You're right.
No, but
Human
honestly, the
nature.
difference
Yeah.
being valued will then knock onto England anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Every
he's got-
Wednesday we value
Thank you.
in here.
Could you
There's your
send me a
namesake.
text maybe now and again just to tell me?
I will do, Danny.
Thank you.
There's a namesake of yours, Danny. Once again, Simon, spot on. I mean, you can't say it how it is unless you end up upsetting somebody. But Maguire, sad to say, is poor, and it has to be called out for what it is. Certainly not rubbish. Not having that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.